In October 2015, McDonald's debuted the all-day breakfast menu, and people everywhere rejoiced at the idea of eating cheap and delicious breakfast food around the clock. But all-day breakfast is just the latest innovation in Mickey D's long and checkered food history. Here's a look at some things you didn't know about McDonald's breakfast. Behold the Egg McMuffin. Back in the day, not only did McDonald's not serve breakfast all day, they actually didn't serve breakfast at all. It wasn't until 1970 that franchisee Jim Delegati, who also invented the Big Mac, came up with the idea of serving breakfast at the McDonald's he owned and operated. But it didn't become a national phenomenon until 1971, when fellow franchise owner Herb Peterson fed McDonald's head honcho Ray Kroc an innovation the world now knows as the Egg McMuffin. Kroc loved it so much he brought it to the company's senior management, and by 1976, every McDonald's in the country had a full breakfast menu.
I hereby proclaim breakfast at participating McDonald's every weekend! Yay!
Haters gonna hate.
It's so frustrating. You race to McDonald's, glance at Mickey, and oh no, it's 10:33. You're 3 minutes late. No breakfast for you.
Luckily, those days are gone now. But while fans of hash browns may love all-day breakfast, not everyone at McDonald's is actually loving it. Some franchises had to invest a lot of money in order to make their restaurants capable of serving breakfast alongside the standard menu items. Others felt like they were rushed into service and wanted more time to introduce the new menu. And some were concerned about menu items that all-day breakfast pushed off the menu, like some McWraps. Though all-day breakfast proved to be a massive hit initially, by 2017 it was reported that sales were slumping once again. So was the convenience of all-day breakfast worth all the effort? Only your mouth knows the answer. They're invested in the coffee game. By 2006, McDonald's was one of the dominant forces in the breakfast market, selling 1 out of every 10 cups of coffee in the United States to the tune of $19 billion a year. But with upscale coffee shops like Starbucks cutting into their action, McDonald's was forced to up their game. In 2009, they introduced the McCafe line of drinks, which offer cheaper and faster alternatives to Starbucks coffee and lattes. And they haven't stopped yet. By 2020, 100% of their coffee will come from sustainable sources. There are healthy breakfast options. You don't need a degree in nutrition to realize some of the breakfast options at McDonald's can be kind of unhealthy. The Big Breakfast with hotcakes, for instance, contains your entire daily recommended fat intake in just one meal, plus more than half of your recommended daily allowance of sodium. But there are a few healthier options if you know where to look. The Egg McMuffin, for instance, clocks in at 300 calories, 12 grams of fat, and 730 milligrams of sodium. And while that's a bit high in fat and sodium, you do get 18 grams of protein. Still, the healthier option is the Egg White Delight McMuffin, which has 260 calories, 8 grams of fat, and 730 milligrams of sodium. And it only has 2 grams less protein than the regular McMuffin. More humane food. One of the most central ingredients on the McDonald's breakfast menu is eggs. How central? McDonald's actually uses more than 4% of all the eggs produced in the United States. And they're committed to making sure those eggs are gathered in the most humane way possible, as they've committed to going completely cage-free in their North American restaurants by 2025. That decision may have been influenced by the Great Pork Scandal of 2011, when their pork supplier, Smithfield, was accused by the Humane Society of lying to shareholders about their animal welfare practices. It turned out that the company used gestation cages, meaning their sows lived in a place so small that during their entire lifetime they couldn't even turn around. In response, McDonald's pledged that by 2022, all of its U.S. pork suppliers would phase out the use of these inhumane crates. The options are very different abroad. If you've ever traveled outside of the United States, you've surely noticed some of the variations in the McDonald's breakfast menu, depending on where you go. For example, if you're traveling in the Middle East, you're not going to find the pork on the menu at all because it's forbidden in Islam. And that's just one regional variation. Depending on where you are, you can also order a Georgie pie, Stroop waffles, a halloumi muffin, or a brekkie wrap, among many others. So before you order a McDonald's breakfast overseas, make sure you actually know what you're getting. Happy breakfast! Everybody loves Happy Meals, so why don't they have a breakfast Happy Meal? Well, it turns out they do. Back in 2016, McDonald's rolled out a pilot program in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, testing a breakfast Happy Meal in 73 locations. There were two basic options, one centering on McGriddles and the other on Egg McMuffins. So far, Mickey D's hasn't rolled out the breakfast Happy Meal to the rest of the country, but here's hoping. After all, everyone wants their food to come with a prize.
It all comes in a Happy Meal box with games, puzzles, jokes, and a prize.
A prize?
Thanks for watching. Click the mashed icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.